afternoon. Just a little loud. My name's Todd Kraft. I'm the president of Lubbock Apartment Association, and on behalf of the association, we want to thank everybody for being here today and welcome you. This is the 38th annual State of the City address that we've had the opportunity to host. And I want to tell you a little bit about our association. It's a group of owners, service members, managers. We represent about 29,500 rentable units in the Lubbock community. Before I dive in, I want to recognize a couple of people today. I'll start with our staff, Suzanne Comer, if you could stand up, and anybody on the LA staff, if you stand up. Thank you guys for putting this together. We couldn't do it without you. I just want to give you a round of applause. I'd like to recognize our board members, and as I call your name, please stand. Gary Mitchell, Jeff Lowry, Dave Markinkowski, John Willie, James Pipkin, Jack Thompson, Lisa McDonald, Russ Moore, Lindsay Snyder, Kim Hall, Mont McClendon, Drew Gray, Tanner Noble, Bill Malloy, Chad Hill, Carol Mize, Albert Gillespie, Miles Siebert, Deanna Brandt, and Alicia Broughton. Thank you guys for service to our organization. I'd also like to recognize our elected officials. I don't know everyone here. I can't see anybody, and I believe Mayor Pope will do that later. But if you are an elected official, please stand. We want to thank you for your service to our community. Judges, members of the council, thank you. I'd also like to give a special thanks to our first responders, our firemen and police department. If you are one of these people, please stand. I'd like to recognize you. You know, it's been kind of a tough week for the city of Lubbock, as many of you know, and I just want to take a moment and recognize Nicholas Reyna, Eric Hill, and Matt Dawson. We suffered a lot in the city here, and just want to ask that your thoughts and prayers be with these folks as we go forward in this year. Final group to recognize are our sponsors. Their names are on your table. They're probably scrolling up through here. Thank you for your contribution in making this event possible. Many of you know that the State of the City Address benefits a charity of the mayor's choosing each year. And for the years that we've done this over the past years, we've benefited charities such as South Plains Wildlife Rehabilitation Center, Family Promise, Scottish Rite Learning Center, the South Plains Honor Flight, the benevolent funds of the Lubbock Fire and Police Departments, Literacy Lubbock, and over the past 37 years, we've raised approximately $250,000, and we're thankful for you guys helping us do that, and appreciate that. Thank you. This year, I'm going to save it and let Mayor Pope announce where this is going, so I'll wait for that. At this time, I'd like to ask you to stand with the Lubbock Fire and Police Department Honor Guards so we can present our colors, followed by the pledges, national anthem, and I believe we're going to start with a prayer with Dr. Curry. Dr. Curry, would you like to? Let me introduce Craig Curry. He's the lead pastor of First United Methodist Church.
Let's pray together. God, we give you thanks for food that brings us together, but we give you thanks more for the ways that this meeting and its resources benefit the children of Lubbock in this area. We give you thanks for our leadership in our community. We give you thanks for those who keep us safe. We lift up our first responders to you today, not just for the work and the calling that they have on them day after day, but especially during this time of grief and recovery. We give you thanks also, Lord, for the way you are leading us as a community to turn our resources loose on how we can benefit the area. So help us use our freedom well, and we give you thanks for our nation, and we lift up our nation today and ask your grace and your direction, your wisdom and your justice. And we thank you. Amen.
Mayor Pro Temp Jeff Griffin, could you come up?
Will you please join us in the pledges of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Temp and Dr. Curry. This year, we're going to do a little different format than we've done over the few years, and Mayor Pope decided to do kind of a roundtable discussion, and I would like to bring up Laura Vinson. Would you guys give us a welcome for Ms. Vinson? Come on up. She's going to ask the tough questions today. And also, please welcome Mayor Dan Pope. Mr. Mayor.
Good afternoon. It's not very good. Good afternoon. It's a lot better. Thank you very much. Thanks for being here today. Special thanks to our sponsors today. We couldn't do this without you. We appreciate you helping out. Big thanks to the Apartment Association for the 38th year they have sponsoring the State of the City address. And I need to start this by saying it's a great day in Lubbock, Texas. I want to introduce my special guests who are with me this morning, but before I do that, let me talk a bit about the Apartment Association. The Lubbock Apartment Association enhances the image as well as promotes the ethical standards and professionalism of Lubbock's rental housing industry. The Apartment Association benefits our city in so many ways. My favorite is their chili cook-off every year, but that's either aside. But thank you again for hosting this event, and we look forward to it every year. I want to recognize my special guest. I'm joined by my much better half, Denise. You heard from my preacher, Craig Curry, a few minutes ago when he preached. Also joined by Senator Charles Perry, State Representative John Frullo, Chancellor Ted Mitchell, President Lawrence Skovanec, Deputy Chancellor Kendra Burris, and head football coach Matt Wells, all from Texas Tech University. Now, Coach Wells is recruiting the area today, and it happened to work out. And he promised me he would come only if we all promised that we would attend all of the home games next year. So I told him I would do this. I want to make sure, Coach, that I follow through there. Also joined by President Robert Satterwhite, from South Plains College, Dr. Kathy Rollo from Lubbock ISD, County Judge Curtis Parrish, and our two chiefs, Police Chief Floyd Mitchell and Fire Chief Sean Fogerson. Please help me welcome all of these folks. As Ty mentioned a minute ago, one of the great privileges of this event is getting to pick a charity of the mayor's choice to dedicate a portion of the proceeds from today's event. This year, I've selected Children's Advocacy Center of the South Plains to be our charity of choice. They do great work in our community. We're joined today by Derek Danner, who's the executive director, and David Vaughn, one of their community board members. The Children's Advocacy Center, easy for me to say, serves children between the ages of 2 and 17 and adults who've been that are developmentally delayed. All of the people they serve have been the victims of abuse and trauma. They're on the front line of things that most of us don't even think about. We're very thankful for what you guys do. Thank you very much. As Ty mentioned, we're doing things a little bit differently this year. We're going to have a sort of a between the two ferns or between the two succulents or something type of address, and Laura is going to ask questions. I want to give Laura a bit of an introduction. She's my good friend, a banker at Prosperity Bank, former president of the Lubbock ISD School Board, and a strong advocate for our community. But before Laura and I get started talking about last year and what 2020 will have in store for us, I'd like you all to watch this video.
I appreciate being able to share some of the highlights of 2019 in this year's State of the City address. A lot of my work requires me to be at City Hall, However, given a choice, I like to be right out in the middle of things. There are really too many great things going on to mention them all. Suffice to say, 2019 was really, really successful. But I believe that the horizon for 2020 is even brighter. We're on stage at the Buddy Holly Hall of Performing Arts and Sciences. With the construction of this state-of-the-art performance venue, Citizens Tower, the Tornado Memorial, the Cotton Court Hotel, and the future police headquarters, just to name some of what's going on, our downtown revitalization effort has tremendous momentum. In closing, I want to thank all of our city employees for the work they do throughout the year. Police officers, firefighters, librarians, street maintenance workers, and animal control officers, as well as countless other city employees, are first-rate public servants and our neighbors. They're the ones who make sure that our city operates efficiently, effectively, and safely. I'm really looking forward to 2020 because it's always a great day in Lubbock, Texas.
Well, there you have it. I think we can all leave now. So, exactly. It is a great day in Lubbock, Texas. I'm glad to be here with you. The start of the video, it was a great video with Buddy Holly and you. I thought you might break out into some carpool karaoke or something. I didn't know kind of where that was going, but.
We live here? Here we go.
I'll just say whatever I want him to say, I guess.
If we have to see Johnny, we're in trouble. So thank goodness. Yeah, I must say that filming that video with my lack of ability to do multiple things at the same time, both drive and remember my lines and talk like that, it took a while.
Glad you weren't chewing gum too.
Yeah, there were drivers all over downtown on the sidewalks. So.
Well, I am glad to be here with you, Dan. Thanks for asking me to do this. I've got notes, you don't.
Yep.
So let's get started. We have a lot to look forward to in 2020 for our city. But so far it's been a hard start to the year in our community, with the loss of, already mentioned today, and on all of our minds, I know, loss of two of our finest, our first responders. I want to ask you what your thoughts are, both as a citizen and as mayor.
Well, words really can't do justice to how we feel and how much we hurt. The loss of Lieutenant Eric Hill and Police Officer Nicholas Reyna, it's something that I think we'll never forget. And we mourn and grieve with their families. In the face of this, we got to see Lubbock at its best last week. We stood strong, we stood together. Tears flowed, compassion flowed, literally down our streets. But I think we can pull through it together. You know, my final thought is around firefighter Matt Dawson. He continues to recover from very, very serious injuries. And, you know, thoughts and prayers for Matt and his wife Chanda, I think, are very important.
Thank you, Mayor. Let's get started talking about 2019 and what's in store for 2020. The new year is a time for resolutions, priority setting, goal setting.
Yeah.
You and the council got started on that early, though. You did that in October at your priorities meeting. So tell us about that. What came out of that for the foundation of this year?
Yeah, it's a great place to start today. The meeting was a full-day event. The first part of the day, staff briefed us on the progress we've been making towards our goals. The second part of the day was really divided into a couple pieces. One, the council talked about our priorities for 2020. We'll have a chance to talk about that, I would imagine. But we also then shifted and talked about long-term capital needs for our community. So I think it's appropriate that the council first and foremost identify our goals, and second, not only plan for this year, but plan for the future, a little more global in those discussions. So that's what we did. And, you know, our priorities, there won't be a lot of surprises here. They're pretty similar. First and foremost is fiscal discipline, which is that guidepost to how we collect revenue, make decisions about spending money, taxes, etc. This is something that when we first set goals in 2016 was on the top of our list, and I can't imagine it moving from there. We spend your money, we spend the people's money, we must be good stewards. Second was communication. You know, how do we best interface with our citizens? The others are community improvement,
public safety, growth and development, and then economic development and redevelopment. So for a total of 6 priorities.
Okay, let's dive a little deeper into each of those.
Sure.
Let's start with fiscal discipline. Something since as long as I've known you, it's been one of your cornerstones.
Yeah, so I think to me, fiscal discipline is funding needs and not wants. It's learning to say no, and it's taking care of what we have, first and foremost. So some examples around fiscal discipline. Let's talk about streets for a minute. In 2016-17, in that budget, we spent $9.9 million on street maintenance, but only $2.2 million of it was cash. The rest was debt. The last 3 years, our council has dedicated ourselves to work to taking care of our streets, but paying cash for it. And I'm glad to point out that this year we'll spend $10 million in street maintenance. We're not talking about building new streets, taking care of what we have, $10 million, all in cash. Another example is with the vehicles we purchase. We have more than 2,000 vehicles in our fleet, so we have to replace some every year. This year, 93% of those vehicles that we are purchasing we're paying for with cash. The council believes that's the right way to do it. The only 6 pieces of equipment that we're financing are 4 fire trucks and 2 pieces of street equipment. Things we'll use for many years, actually decades, so it makes sense to finance those. I guess finally, when we talk about fiscal discipline, it's also the way we manage utility rates, user fees, and the tax rate. It's doing so in a responsible manner. This year, stormwater rates went down for everyone. They went down $1.50 at tier 1, and then more for that in the other, more than that in the other tiers. Our water rates, our wastewater rates, and solid waste rates all remain steady. They did not change this year. The property tax rate went up a penny. Those funds are dedicated to our public safety initiative. We had told you to expect that. In fact, we had told you to expect 2 cents, and we were able to do it for 1 cent because of our growth and I think good budgeting. So that's fiscal discipline to me.
And certainly not using both of those pennies is something you wanted to communicate to all of us, which leads me into the next question. Let's talk about communication. We have such a diverse community and ages and a variety of different people like to get their information in different ways. How does the city meet that challenge to communicate what we need to know?
Yeah, so it is a challenge. In the world today, information moves rapidly. Traditional media, social media, word of mouth, certainly through our phones. And so we've had to change the way we communicate, and I'm proud of the progress that we've made.
I was on the website, to prepare for this, I was on the website for the first time in quite honestly a while. It's great though. It's very user-friendly.
Thank you. The city website is much improved. It's about 18 months old, and it's easy to navigate its way through. We have 41 social media accounts that the city that we host, and over 205,000 followers. Our Facebook reach is 31.5 million. Our Twitter reach is about 2.5 million. Lubbock Alert continues to grow its subscriber base, which is important. And during 2019, we actually received 2 different awards for the way our communication team used social media. Now, as we look to 2020, we'll continue down that path. One thing you'll see a big improvement on in 2020 is Channel 2, our TV station. As we move to Citizens Tower, we get a significant technology upgrade. In fact, maybe a couple decades worth of technology upgrade. And you should expect full HD and better capabilities, both inside Citizens Tower for council meetings, but also for things that we would do remotely.
I think I know how you're going to answer this, but what's your favorite mode of communication personally?
Well, I prefer to talk face-to-face.
I thought I'd catch you say Snapchat or something like that.
No, it's not TikTok or Snapchat.
Okay.
I know that probably shocked you.
Moving on to the next priority, community improvement. that seems to me to be a pretty broad topic.
It's a catch-all of
That
sorts.
kind of
Yes.
covers everything that a city would do for us. Let's talk about, I want to talk specifically about neighborhoods, though, because that really affects all of us. We want our neighborhoods to be safe and secure, and when it boils down to it, we're pretty provincial people. And so talk to me about, to all of us, about neighborhood improvement.
Yeah, I hope we get to talk about neighborhoods a lot today.
Yeah.
I don't think you have a strong city without strong neighborhoods. We have more than 50 miles of city streets that have never been paved. They're actually dirt roads. We're going to spend more than $400,000 this year strip paving some of those roads. We've been doing that for several years. Our codes team is busy in our neighborhoods. They do neighborhood sweeps on a monthly basis. We funded another codes enforcement position this year. Our council is committed to protecting our neighborhoods. Another way we've benefited our neighborhoods is through our Parks Amenities program. So that's either replacing existing equipment or adding to the features of our parks. You saw the ribbon cutting in the video from the walking track at Jan Jennings Park. We're doing another one of those this year at Lethbridge Park. You talk about something that really gets used in our parks. Finally, we'll continue our efforts to rehab owner-occupied homes in North and East Lubbock through our NELIF program using HUD funding.
Is that funding that will continue, or is that just for this year?
We expect it's funding that will continue. We've been doing it for many years, and it varies a bit, but not significantly.
Okay. Well, the next topic falls into both growth, development, and kind of the public safety bucket. I was speaking with a friend of mine the other day who has a daughter that lives in Houston. New mom, new baby, going back to work. Her commute's an hour and a half. For young families that we want to attract here, I mean, I think we have something to be very positive about, because I know that we have one of the shortest commutes in the top 100 cities in the nation. So that's a marketing tool for us. And as we talk about bringing these families home or back to Lubbock, talk about transportation.
Yeah, you know when you watch a game show and they ask the question, you know the guy knows the answer because they have a smile on their face. When you talk about transportation, it's like that. Much of our success in our community is due to a long-held commitment from our leaders to leverage state and federal funds along with local matches, local funds, to make sure that we're providing for roads before we actually need them. Now, we're not perfect in that regard, but we've often done that. I think a good example of a fast-track project like that is the Marshall Sharp Freeway. We've also used the Gateway Streets Fund for many years, and examples of that would be the work on Milwaukee, the paving of it, way ahead of the growth. Erskine and Slide are other examples. This year we're using the Gateway Street funds for a mile on South Indiana between 130th and 146th, and a mile on Upland between 66th and 82nd. In addition, we continue to work on the funding for Loop 88. We made some big strides there last year. And then also on our Ports to Plains effort. That is extending I-27 from Lubbock to Laredo. Now, these two particularly are not short-term they're not new and they're not short-term, but when they are completed, they will be game changers for Lubbock and the South Plains. Finally, this year, we're studying our public transportation system, our transit system, city bus. This comprehensive analysis includes reviewing our route and transfer station model. It probably will look at how we run buses, maybe do things differently in the future.
Do we have electric buses?
We have a couple of electric buses that were paid for with grant funds last year. They're actually working very well. We should get this report in time for the council to analyze this data, and staff certainly to make plans for the 2020-2021 budget. We've got to find different ways to run city bus. It cannot continue to rely so heavily on the general fund.
You know, we talked about the thoroughfares, and I want to ask, I've been wanting to talk to you about this. With made thoroughfares come ease of transport, ease of getting across our city, but with that comes speed. And it seems to me, Dan, we have had an innumerable number of serious accidents. It seems like one's happening almost every week even. So I know it's a personal responsibility issue, really.
Sure.
But what are your discussions at the city level about this? What are the facts? What's the perception? What can we do?
Well, we have a problem. I think that's the first thing we want to recognize. Last year, we had 51 people killed in auto fatalities, auto wrecks in Lubbock. 51. That's more than 2 times the number of people killed in similar wrecks in 2018. I mean, I look at this as it's largely controllable. It's about speed. It's about paying attention, not being distracted. It's about putting our damn phone down. Mm-hmm. We've got to be better in this regard. You're going to hear us talk a lot about this in the next few weeks. Chief Mitchell will be leading the way, but we can be better in this area.
I think when we all leave here today, myself included, that's one thing that we need to take with us, certainly. 51 far too many. Let's move on. You and the council take care of so many facilities. We have a lot of facilities all across our city. Big ones. We're in one right now. In your planning meeting, you talked about the future of these facilities. You talked about the Civic Center and the libraries. We saw a lot of these in the video. How do you, as mayor, see the future of these facilities?
Yeah, that's a good one. So let's start with libraries. Today's libraries have evolved into modern, multi-use kind of facilities that not only provide the traditional library services, but provide maker spaces, a lot of formal and informal community meeting spaces, and high levels of technology and digital access. I recently toured one of these libraries of the future, and you got to see a 3D printing lab. It had these interactive learning spaces for both young kids and teenagers. It had this high-end sewing and quilting kind of area. It just had a lot of different things to attract citizens, and we're looking at some of these. In fact, later this quarter, Stacy McKenzie, our library directors, will be presenting to the council sort of her plan and vision. So it's something that our citizens should pay close attention to.
Well, what type, are they underused, overused? What type of plan? Who's the market for our?
I think they're well used today. We've been studying that actually, but we need to make sure that time doesn't pass us by. When you walk into our Mahon Library, it's really a bit like going back in time, and we need to become or remain relevant to the marketplace, I guess. When we talk about the Civic Center, the building that we're in is nearly 45 years old. By the way, Laura, did you know that Waylon Jennings played in this very facility when we opened this building in 1976?
That was a party.
Yeah, I bet it was too. And Jesse was with him too, by the way, in case you're wondering. But when we opened this facility in the late 70s, there were 160,000 people that lived in Lubbock. Today we're about 270. We've taken care of the inside of this facility, but it's not grown as our community has. We lose out today on convention business because we're not able to accommodate that. And so that means that our hotels lose, our restaurants lose, our stores, our retail stores lose. And so the council is looking at this right now very hard. We have a group of architects and engineers doing an expansion study, giving us some ideas, different concepts as well as cost. You'll see a report back on that before the middle of the year. We're also considering rebranding the Memorial Civic Centers, the Memorial Convention and Civic Center.
We don't have a convention
center.
center.
We think it better represents how we use this space. We're updating we'll update our booking policy sometime this year also. And finally, we continue to work on a convention center hotel project. It would be a public-private partnership, much like the wildly successful project that we participated at years ago at the Overton. It would provide a headquarter hotel for a convention. It would be connected to this facility. And the council will be asked to make a decision on this project relatively quickly.
So we'll see activity and movement on these this year.
Yes, we will.
Does that mean these are big ticket items? Does that mean perhaps a bond election for this purpose?
Certainly, we couldn't do the kind of work we'll need to do to this building, most likely without a bond election. It's been 11 years since we've had a bond election. We've got some streets needs. We'll talk about some other things in a minute that could possibly be part of a bond election. We'll see. I'm one vote. There's 7 of us. That's not a discussion we've had yet.
In the video, we saw a lot about our parks.
Yeah.
We have a lot of parks.
We do.
A lot going on at our parks. I love this picture. I know you like that photograph as well. What all is going, well, not all, you can't get there, but what are some of the highlights of what's going on in our park system?
Sure. So the thing top of mind for me is the reopening of Burl Huffman Park and our soccer complex later this spring. So let's talk about what's new there. So new grass, new irrigation, new restrooms, new parking and interior roads, a new entrance. Listen to this, those of you who've been there over the years, a new entrance off of the frontage road of Lake Luke 289.
Oh, I like driving over the field and coming.
Yeah, well,
it's much more fun that way.
Yeah, it's probably not good for the auto body folks, but anyway, we also will have our first ever artificial turf tournament fields, complete with lights as well as spectator shade structures for spectators. This is all made possible by Market Lubbock and our neighbor XFAB, who donated some land to help us out. And I think it'll be the premier soccer facility between the Metroplex and Albuquerque. Pickleball is another thing we're working on. Pickleball is the fastest growing participation sport in the country. And we're adding pickleball courts to our tennis center this year. Laura, you smile like you
I have played pickleball.
Yeah. What did you think about it?
I'm not very good at it, but our knees get older and we go to pickleball.
I've not played yet, but a lot of people have, and we've been approached, and so we thought it was something we could easily retrofit some of our existing courts and add on, and something we're doing. We're also working on plans to expand our trails, our jogging, walking, bike trails throughout the city, including how to connect all of our canyon lakes. And last and certainly not least is the work we're doing at McAllister Park. Our master plan there includes a dog park, our 3rd dog park, which will be built this year, complete with lighting, restrooms, and a parking lot. We're working on improvements to the skate park there and the trails at McAllister Park. We're going to work with community groups to help rebuild Legacy Play Village at McAllister Park. And, you know, much of this would not be possible if not for a real generous gift from George and Linda McMahon. We're very thankful for
partnerships again.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're not going to believe this segue.
I'm not.
You're not.
Okay.
Or the minutia that I may have in my head.
All right, go for it.
Did you know that pickleball was named for the creator's dog named Pickles?
I did not.
It is. You heard it here first. It's breaking news.
Okay.
And so that is going to lead us right into talking a little more about the dog parks. You've got a dog. You've got Bogey.
I do have Bogey. Bogey was in the video.
Bogey was in the video. We've got Murphy.
Yeah.
And does Bogey go to the dog parks?
No, Bogey's pretty lazy. He lives a very comfortable life, and he's never been to one of the dog parks, nor does he have any desire to go. However, if you visited our dog parks, you'll realize that they get a lot of use. Weekends, evenings, they're often actually packed.
We took Murphy to the dog park at McKenzie Park one time. I was amazed at the number of people. Was very relieved that it's separated for small dogs and large dogs. It could have gotten ugly, but it didn't. So let's move on.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about dogs all afternoon.
Let's talk about downtown instead. I love downtown. I work downtown.
Right.
You built your business downtown.
That's
you
right.
do too.
Yeah.
And it seems to me, we are finally over the hump. There is so much going on in the revitalization of downtown that we've all been waiting for a long, long time. So you've talked a little bit about the Civic Center. Let's talk about Citizens Tower, Buddy Holly Hall, all the other things that are going on.
Yeah, this is like a batting practice fastball. Things are fast and furious downtown. We expect to move into Citizens Tower this quarter. In fact, we hope to hold our second council meeting of February there. Remember that we're going to consolidate all city services, save fire and police, into the Citizens Tower complex. Buddy Holly Hall, which I talked about in the video, will open late this summer, early this fall. It's catalytic to our community. the Cotton Court Hotel, a unique sort of high-end boutique hotel with a Lubbock, South Plains kind of theme to it, will open this summer. We're building a tornado memorial that will allow us to honor the 26 lives lost in the May 11th, 1970 tornado. We think it's a fitting way to observe the 50th anniversary of that occurrence. This Saturday, we'll break ground downtown on a graduate student housing project with Texas Tech as a partner. It's something that we're real excited about. South Plains College will begin to transform our existing city hall into an academic center that at some point when they're open, we feel like we'll host as many as 2,000 students on a daily basis. In addition, you'll see significant work to the Wells Fargo building this year.
The stagecoach is gone.
The stagecoach is gone. That's not what I was thinking about, but it is. We will, the NTS building or the Metro Tower building will start being transformed into apartments. We're doing final planning on our police administrative headquarters, and maybe not as large, but equally as important are a number of small projects that help sort of stitch all this together.
It's just catalytic. A lot of business owners are reinvesting, investing, moving downtown. It's fantastic. So really excited about that. Let's talk a little bit about, some more quality of life issues. Certainly transportation we touched on earlier.
Sure.
But let's talk about the arts. Again, as long as I've known you, you've always been a supporter of the arts. I know Denise is as well. When you look at the success and the growth of the First Friday Art Trail, for example, and we've got the cultural arts designation, district designation downtown. Yeah. What do you think is going to be the future for the arts in Lubbock? Certainly Buddy Holly Hall is a huge piece of that.
Well, I mean, the arts they're important. They're our heritage. Music, dance, theater, the visual arts, they add spice to life. I like to say that all work and no play makes Dan a dull boy, and some would say I'm dull anyway. But anyway, workers and employers both weigh quality of life when they decide where they want to live and work and where they want to invest. We've created a Director of Cultural Arts position this year operating out of Market, Lubbock, with the idea of further promoting arts and coordinating arts efforts in our community. Remember that arts in Lubbock represent a $100 million annual impact to our economy.
We've got to continue to support them. We've got to continue to grow them, in my opinion. Transportation, arts, neighborhoods, vibrant downtown, all of these things add to the quality of life, as we've mentioned. And so does mental and physical wellness. Mm-hmm. Some hard conversations to be had around some of these topics. Sure. But Lubbock's the medical leader for the region. Tell us about your take on the mental wellness, physical wellness of the community of our city.
Well, we're working on it. Our Mayor's Fitness Council continues to support healthy eating and an active lifestyle. We had great success last year with the Mayor's Marathon and the Ironman, the 70.3, the triathlon, and they'll be back again in 2020. We held our first addiction and recovery symposium late last year, led by Councilman Randy Christian. We continue to invest in our health department. They're involved in a number of very important initiatives. One that comes to mind that they were a big part of last year was the community mental health assessment that we collaborated with, and was actually, the work was done by the Meadows Institute, or excuse me, the Meadows Foundation.
So what's going to happen with that information, with that
Well,
report?
we just got the report in December. They lay out a pathway to providing a better complement of mental health services, and I think as a community we've got to step up and figure that one out.
We do. And, mental health is such a factor in our homelessness that we have downtown and throughout our community, actually. So what's the next step with regard to homelessness?
So our committee that studied that last year, led by former Mayor Langston and Councilwoman Latrell Joy, made a report to the council in December. They gave us 4 or 5 things that they suggested to get started with. We will work on this difficult issue this year. fact, we've already started. I think we will start by better enforcing the existing ordinances that we have that are on the books to keep everyone safe.
Well, that leads me into my next question about public safety, because there are issues surrounding that are concerning to all of us. So let's talk about public safety. It's always at the top of, top priority for a city.
It's job one.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
So talk to us about what the focus has been last year and what the focus will be going forward with regard to public safety.
Yeah, so I would start with a highlight around leadership. We've got new leaders at both Lubbock Fire and Rescue and at Lubbock Police. Sean Fogerson is our fire chief. Floyd Mitchell is our police chief. I think we feel really good about having those men in place. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Lubbock Fire and Rescue is an ISO Class 1 department. So that's the highest fire protection class available in the U.S. Like 1% of the cities in the country qualify. That means
insurance rates, right?
That means lower fire insurance rates. That's right. And we're committed to maintaining that rating. There's a lot that goes into it. We're also beginning to have discussions with Lubbock Fire and Rescue about where our next fire station will be. We will have to do that as we continue to grow. Chief Mitchell and his team continue to work on our public safety improvement project. We held the groundbreaking for the East Police Substation in late November. We'll break ground for the South Substation before mid-year, and then later this year we will break ground for the substation that will be in Northwest Lubbock.
It ties back into neighborhoods as
That's
well,
right.
right?
That's exactly right.
Three overall.
That's right. That's how we deliver community policing. That's how we get our police officers on the streets more, in our neighborhoods, protecting our homes, our businesses, our churches. We also will finish our design work around the municipal court, and that project will begin this year. That's going to be we'll retrofit a building we own just west of Citizens Tower for that. And then I mentioned earlier, we're finishing up the design for the police headquarters, which will be located south of Citizens Tower across the parking lot.
What's the timetable for that?
I don't think we'll get started on construction until probably early next year on that. They really hadn't briefed me on that, if you want to know the truth. Above my pay level, maybe.
You're on a need-to-know basis.
Yeah.
Different topic altogether now, the census. April marks the beginning of the census count. First of all, we need to all be counted. But that plays into our growth of our city. Our growth of our city seems to not be slowing down anytime soon. How do you plan for that? We want to avoid the infrastructure nightmare of Austin and some other places that we all visit. How are you addressing that?
We have a plan. I think that's most important. In December of 2018, our council adopted Plan Lubbock 2040, a citizen-led effort. It took 18 months, the first comprehensive plan for our community in more than 30 years. And the plan calls out several very important items for us to work on, and we've begun that work. We're developing a unified development code right now. That is, it will replace the zoning code that generally has been in place since the 70s, has been modified some since then, but this effort will take all of this year and into 2021. We're also working on impact fees. A group of citizens is working on a plan to change the way that development costs are shared. This is for new developments. Their work should be completed later this year. This is a new concept for Lubbock, and it's important that we get it right. Stakeholder input is crucial to both of these projects. The other thing that the plan calls out is neighborhood. It wants us to have neighborhood planning efforts, something we've never done. So we'll have discrete neighborhood plans for old neighborhoods, for new neighborhoods. We need to make sure that we have strong neighborhoods. I think I said it before. You don't have a strong city without strong neighborhoods.
Well, continuing along with growth, let's talk about job growth. I know that's something that you're anxious to talk about, and it's important for our city. Tell us what's happening with job numbers in Lubbock and where we're going with that.
Yeah, we're sort of riding a really good wave when it comes to job growth, and I'm thankful for all the people that work on this. I spend a great deal of time working on jobs. When we talk about our community, we first want to make sure that the businesses that are here today are successful, that they prosper. So that's where we spend most of our efforts. When we have a chance, though, we tell the Lubbock story to people who aren't here yet. And frankly, we're getting a lot of traction with that.
A lot of announcements from Lita. Over
That's
the last
right. There's a
several
lot. We've got more coming. We've got more coming next week. In 2018, we created 4,500 net new jobs in Lubbock. In 2019, through 11 months, we were on pace to create another 2,500 net new jobs. 7,000 jobs in 2 years. And unemployment hovered at or below 3%. Every good job that's created, somebody wants to live in Lubbock, Texas to take that job. Also, you may not know, Laura, I'll give you a few stats here. Wallet Hub lists Lubbock as one of the 2020's best city for jobs in the country. Smart Assets says we're one of the top 25 cities in the country for work-life balance, and one of the top 20 places that millennials are moving. And finally, USA Today, earlier this year, said that Lubbock is one of the top 10 cities in the country, not of our size, but in the country, for a 2019 college grad to move and find a job.
Our family's particularly interested in that stat.
That's right. We understand that. We have kids about that age. Jobs are important.
Those are remarkable stats, good numbers and all positive. So thanks for sharing that with us. We haven't talked about not maybe the most exciting aspect of city government, but for heaven's sakes, some of the most crucial: water, electricity, trash, public works. So what makes the city run day to day? And talk to us about that.
The old public works question. So on the LP&L front, let's talk about that first. We continue working on our transition to connect with the ERCOT grid. We are actually building transmission lines as we speak, and we still plan on being part of that grid by the middle part of 2021. We have
when did that start? I'm going to interrupt you. When did that? How long? I mean, we've been talking about ERCOT for a
close
long
to
time.
5 years into that. Those things don't happen overnight. We have a number of water-related projects. You may have read about the new water towers we're building, which will help us in a number of ways. They provide a more secure water source. They will help with water pressure, and over time we'll actually save money because of the way we store water. We're also improving our plumbing. That's sort of the way I look at it. That's the way we better move that water that we've gotten here from Lake Allen Henry, but use it all over the community. We're also continuing the implementation of advanced metering infrastructure, smart meters, which will allow the city and ratepayers to better monitor both their consumption and easily manage their own electric and water accounts. So those are the highlights, I think, of public works.
We take that for granted in many cases, but bless you.
Pardon me.
Good heavens.
Making sure those of you that are dozing off, we woke you up there for what will be a scintillating finish. Okay, stay with us.
Yeah, we've got a lot of tricks in store, folks. Okay, actually, you really are on the home stretch now.
We are.
Yep, we've got a couple of video questions.
Video questions.
From some of your most important and curious constituents.
Okay, let's see what they have to say.
What do mayors do?
What advice would you have for a young future leader?
Dan?
Two questions. What does
a
a mayor do? You know, I sometimes think that my daughter had it right when she was about that age, and somebody asked her what her daddy did, and she said he talks on the phone and goes to meetings. That sort of thing. That's what I do a lot of the time. But let's talk about the leadership question. I think leaders understand what they want and where they're going. They are good listeners. They're able to build teams of people with diverse talents and backgrounds and beliefs. They work shoulder to shoulder with the people that they serve, doing the work together. And they're not afraid to jump in and get started. That's what I would tell young leaders. Jump in the deep end, and there's no way to get there without, some experience. And so that's my advice.
Well, how does, from a young leader to an adult leader, I mean, we've talked so many on so many topics about committees, citizen-led initiatives.
Let's
How
talk
does
about
an
some leaders. So,
average- yeah.
I mean, so, my favorite group of leaders and really my favorite part of being mayor is the city council that I get to work with. They're very capable leaders. They're men and women of character. They really care about our community. I'm thankful for each one of them. I'm thankful for Juan Chidas, Sheila Patterson-Harris, Jeff Griffith, Steve Massengale, Randy, and Latrell Joy. Would you please help me recognize our city council? Together, as a council, we all lean heavily on the leadership of our city manager, Jared Atkinson, our city attorney, Chad Weaver, and our city secretary, Becky Garza. We're fortunate to have really, really strong
I
leadership.
think we need to give them a round of applause as well. All of those leaders got involved at some point in jumping, like you said, jumping in with
Jumped
both
in the
feet.
deep end.
How
Yeah,
does an
that's right.
average citizen get involved in some of these?
Go to the city website. There's a link on the landing page to an application that allows you to express your interest in getting involved. We let you tell us where you're most interested in serving. We'll try to put you to work.
Okay, fair enough. Well, Mayor Pope, election season is upon us, and I want to visit with you about your reelection campaign and how you're going to model that and what your plans are for the future should you get reelected.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. First and foremost, we're going to work hard and run a really good campaign between now and May. We still have work to do. There's big projects that need to be finished. We talked about the public safety initiative. We talked about LP&L's move to ERCOT. We hadn't even talked about the work we're doing at the airport, but there are a lot of big projects that we need to finish. We also need to continue working on jobs. That never gets off the top of our desk. Same with transportation, Loop 88, I-27, Ports to Plains, and actually some transportation needs within the city. I think most important, though, I'll remain committed to being a common sense leader, one that's responsive and available, accountable, and transparent.
Well, I want to thank you for the job you're doing, for the care that you and the effort that you put into our city and our community. So thank you for that. And thanks for letting me be here and have this conversation with you. We talked about you didn't want to do a death by PowerPoint. Hopefully it wasn't death by moderator, but I've enjoyed being here with you. So at this point, Mayor, you have the final word. What would you like to have us all think about as we leave here today?
Well, first of all, Laura, thank you for doing this. Thanks for spending some time with me, dumbing down yourself, spending a little time with me. I also want to thank the people that made this work today. There's members of our city team that have worked long and hard to make this work, and they know who they are, but I'm thankful for them. When I was practicing last night, Denise said, remember, you're not preaching this year. You're not talking. It's conversational. You've got to be relaxed. And I said, well, this one last question, I may preach a little bit. But I think Yogi Berra had it right when he said the future ain't what it used to be. And like a lot of the things he said, it's pretty true. I mean, Lubbock ain't what it used to be. We stand on a high point, and we look out over this landscape that's just full of opportunity. Our economy and our quality of life are at high water marks. The Texas miracle continues. Our partners are strong. I mean, I can't think of a better partner than Texas Tech with their leadership and their strong vision for both Lubbock and West Texas. The American dream is alive and well in Lubbock, Texas. I'm often asked how we can grow, but at the same time, keep what makes us Lubbock. That value system that we cling to. And I think we can do that. I think that, I always remind people that we love our neighbors. And we're quick to volunteer at our kids' school or for a nonprofit. And we worship in our houses of worship. And we invite our neighbors, our friends to join us. And we're still the kind of people that when we run into a friend at Market Street, we stop and ask about their family because we really care. That's who we are. That's what makes Lubbock a great place. That's why if you live here long enough to wear out a pair of shoes, you'll never want to leave. We're in a great spot. I think President Reagan summed it up really well when he said that while I take inspiration from the past, like most Americans, I live for the future. Our future is very, very bright. I pray that God continues to bless each of you and your families, that God blesses the United States of America and the great state of Texas, and that He continues to shine His bright light on Lubbock, Texas. Thanks for letting us share a little bit with you today. Thank you.
Working real well, but before we leave, before you're dismissed, if you would turn your attention to the centerpiece on your table. We talked about community service. We're also going to do our part for your significant other. Somebody designate somebody and take this home to him or her tonight. Thank you for being here, and you're